And here we go with Sallust. Chapter 11, picking up at line number 4. Said postquem, but after El Sulla, Lucius Sulla, armis recepta re publica. So with arms, armis, he had which we have in English again, so he had recaptured, retaken the Republic, with the Republic retaken in ablative absolute. Bonus initius, and another ablative section with a good beginning, or from a good beginning. Malos eventos habuit. It had a malos, a bad eventus, a bad turnout, a bad ending. Rapere omnes trahe. I think one of those omnes is doubled. It's not actually in the other text. So everyone began to rapere, to rip off things, steal and drag them off, pillage. Domum alias. So we have alias, a correlative. So one would want a house, another cupere to desire. Agros is field or lands. Nequi modum, neither was there a modum or a limit. Nequi modesty, neither modesty. And victors, these are the people who were doing the coopering. The victors, they didn't have any limit or modesty, self-restraint. Again, we have habere from habwit up there. Photo means sort of foul sort of thing. Crudelia. In civis facinora facere. So we'll rend it up with the verb. So they begin to do these facinoras, a crime or deed, in the civis. The civis is in the state, or as we see towards the other citizens. There's no restraint for these victors. They had foul, shameful, and cruel actions they were facerating, they were doing. Huc accedabat. So huc would be this place or this. Accedabat was added. Quod el sulla, nominative exercitum, accusative. So this was added that, we'll just take the quod as a because, see if it works out. Because Sulla, an army, quem in Asia ductivert, which was in Asia, which he was leading, he was ductiverating. So Sulla was ductiverating his exercitum in Asia. He was leading his army in Asia. Quo sibi fidem facerat. There's no actual comparative, but sometimes they just use quo instead of ut, so that he could make this exercitum, this army, fidem sibi to himself, so they can make them loyal or trustworthy to himself. Contra morem maiorum, against the customs of the ancestors. Luxurios nimisque liberalta habuerit. Okay, so this is what he did with his army. Against the customs of his ancestors, he had let them have these luxuries and excessive nimis liberalities. Had too much freedom and luxury, basically. Loca Armenia. These are pleasant locations. Voluptaria facili in otio, which were easily, voluptarias are pleasurable in their leisure, so there were these pleasant places where you could easily get pleasure in your spare time. Ferocis militum animos molliverant. This had softened. Molliverant's the perfect of it. The ferocis animos, the ferocious spirits, militum, genitive of the soldiers. Ibi, so there, primum insuevit exercitus. So here was the first time for the army in suvit. They became accustomed. If you take the in off, it still means the same thing. Sometimes you get ad suvit. The army populi Romani, so the army of the Roman people, became accustomed, amare. So this is taken in infinitive. To love and potere, to drink. Now we're going into nouns. Signa, these can mean standards or statues. I'm guessing it's statues because we got tabulus pictus, which means paintings. Vasa calata mirare. Okay, so they began to love and to drink and mirare, to admire statues, paintings, and carved out vases. Okay, lad is a past passive. So these things, privatum and publice, private and public, goods, rapere, to steal them off. So they become to steal from private and public citizens. Delubra spoilare, to despoil the shrines, the delubras. The sacra profanaque, omnia pollure. So omnia with an IA, it's going to be the neuter verb, neuter form. So everything which was sacred and profane, they were polluring. They were polluting it and defiling it. Igitur, therefore, I, which is the demonstrative pronoun, can be a single I or EI or II. So therefore, these milites, these soldiers, postquem victoriam adepti, the I shows it's plural, going with milites. So therefore, these soldiers, postquem, after they had adeptus the victory, after they had obtained victory, sunt, nihil reliqui victis fecere. They made sure that nothing was reliqui left to these defeated. Sometimes you might see as de victus, but here it's just victus. So these soldiers, after they had obtained victory, they left nothing at all for the other people. And calatus are participles for carved. The one we saw here was calata, which is the same in vocative and nominative and ablative, etc. Okay, so the daily dictionary was for vasa calata, the carved vases or apparatus. Quipi sense, secunda res, favourable matters or favourable circumstances. Sapientium animos fatigit. They fatigue or wear out the animos, the mind, sapientum of the wise. So when things are going favourable, this fatigue against the minds. Nay, lest illi corruptus moribus. So these people, illi is another demonstrative pronoun, lest these with corruptus moribus, with corrupt mannerisms and ways and customs, temperarent victory. So these people could not be tempered with their corrupt moribuses. Victory couldn't. You saw what they did in victory. They stole from private and public and despoiled shrines and the sacred and profane, etc. Okay, so they couldn't temper their victories. I think that victory must be dative. So postquem, after divite, riches, honore esse coopere, began to be honoured. So riches were honoured. And eas glories, and these things are, eas is the pronoun, glory, imperium is power or control, potentia sequabatur. So, and then once riches began to be the honoured thing, what followed, sequabatur, in the quest for these things of glory, these glories, it's power, and virtus here we have, which is a female. If don't be confused by the US, there's about 10 third declension female things that have a US and a couple of neuters. So virtues were hebescere, they were blunted. Paupertas, which is poverty. Habere was considered probrum. Anytime you see the R with that, it means it's a more of a disgraceful thing, whereas probus without the R is a good thing. And so poverty was considered as a disgrace. Innocentia pro maleviana ducae coepit again. So begin here takes the infinitive. So innocence began to be considered as pro malevolent, as bad will, basically what it literally means, or innocence began to be considered as a evil thing. Igitur, therefore, ex divitis, from these riches, the juventutum, the youth, luxuria atqui avaritia cum superbia invasere. So then the young man invasere. This is in the accusative here. So luxury and avarati, which is greed, cum superbia, with proudness and arrogance. This invasere, it invaded the young man or came into them. And the reason was from their riches. Rapere, we're in an infinitive, so they would steal, consumere, consume, probably excessively. Sua parve pendere, they weighed sua, their own things, parve of little value. Alien cupere, so they were desiring, cuperating other people's things. Aliena. Pudorem, which is sort of what would we say, shame. And pudicitam, that's same sort of thing, modesty and shame here. Divina and humana promisca, so there's mixed in with the godlike things, the divine and human things are all mixed up. Nihil pensos neque moderata hebre. So nothing was pensai. This looks like where they thought, it's a way of thinking really, or considering. And so they didn't think anything was of value or moderation, or they consider having moderation about things. Opere pretium est. So the price is of works, basically. Cum domos et villas. When houses and villas, cogno veris. When, this is the second person, so cognoverus. When you get to know the price of works, when houses and villas, in urbem modum ex edificatus. So these will be houses and villas built up in the way, in modum urbium, split here with the genitive. So you get to know the price of works when you've got to know houses and villas built up in the way of cities. Visere templa deorum, to visit or to see, visere, the temples of the gods, genitive. Quich nostrae maiores, which our ancestors, religio semui, the eyes plural, mortales fecere made. So which our ancestors, these are in apposition, they made very religious, a supine form, not supine, what do you call it, the superlative, very religious mortals, very religious men, people. Virum, but illi, these people, delubra diorum, the shrines of the gods with piety, that's the ablative. Domos suis gloria decobentit, so illi, these people decorated the shrines of the gods with piety, and their houses, suis homus, domus, their own houses, with glory. Nequi victus, and that's a negative word, so nequi quicquem, so not anything. Ablative, it looks like from the defeated, from the victus people, besides inuria licentiam irripament. Besides a license to rip away, and praeter means besides, and that's the verb ripere. Anything, this comes from injust, or the license to steal away from, looks like injury, but once they had victus people, once they had defeated them, they had the license to take away anything they felt to make up for the injustice, most likely. At he contra, but hi, these people, contrarily, so we had illi, those people back then of old, contrary to these, hi, ignavusume homines, the most cowardly man, worthless man. This is the hi, the demonstrative pronoun. These most cowardly men, per summum scelus, through the heights of their crime, basically scelus is the neuter version with the US. Omnia means everything. Ademere means to remove or take away. Socies is their allies. Through the height of their crimes, they would take away everything. There's another pronoun. From the allies, quae, which the fortissimi viri, which these most bravest men relinquished, they had left. So these fortunismi viri victorious, these bravest victorious men had left. Proinde quasi inurium facere idemum esset imperio uti. Proindi, so then, quasi as if, facere injury. So is it just as if to do an injury or to do wrong, this, id, demum, finally or in short, esset imperio uti, is to use imperio. Utor takes the ablative, so imperium is in that. So then as if it is right to do injuries to people, in short, is what it is to use power or hold power. I'll keep going down here for a while. Oh, there we go. Nam quid ea memorum. Nam's for, what thing is quid. Should I be mindful of memorum, or should I remember ea, this thing? Quae nisi is, which unless you had been is these people, nisi means unless or except, qui videre, unless you had been is, these people who had seen it, videre, nemini credibilius sunt, this is believable, credible to no one, nemini. A privatus clom pluribus, so the A takes the ablative, from pluribus means many, from many private citizens, subvorsus montus, Maria constrata esse. And the question marks was back here for, this is credibila to no one. For who is this? Is it believable to anyone? So many private citizens have subverted the mountains. These have overturned them, leveled them out, and Maria has been constrated. So they've built up on the sea, probably by making jetties and throwing rocks and things in. Quibus, starting with the relative pronoun. Which things videntur mihi? Which things seem to me? Ludibrio, which comes from neuter, fuisi divinae. Divites are riches. So these riches seem to have been ludibrio, which is a mockery or a plaything. Quippy sense, quas honeste habere licebet. Licebet's an impersonal, which they're allowed to have, which they could have had honestly, you might want to say. Abutai, this is utor, but the ab version of it. So instead of to abuse, through their turpitudinem properabant, which means to hasten. So which things seem to me, the riches seem to be just a plaything. Since the things which they could have had honestly, they hasten, properabant, to abuse. That's the infinitive of a deponent. In turpitude is like another sort of filthy word, turpitude. So they abused it in sort of whatever method you want to use that word as. Said lubido stupri, but there was a lubido, a lust of stupra, which is an illegal type of sex, can be rape or something, but it can just be other sort of sick things. Genes, feasting, keterai, cultus, non mina incesserat. So keterai, cultus, rest of this sort of culture, you might want to say. Sometimes it means clothing, but it probably means the rest of this type of culture of fornication and gluttony. Non-minor, incesserat had come into them. So put that together, these lust and desires for feasting and some not lesser things had come into them, keterai and the rest of things. Viri, patai, malubri, so men endured femaleness. Mulieres pudicatiam in perpetuo, which is an adjective, habere. So the mulieres of the women, their chastity, they would have in, this literally means open in the front, so they were giving away their chastity, semicolon. Vescendi causa, causes the postposition, goes beyond the genitive. This genitive is a gerund. So for the sake of this deponent, for the sake of feasting or vescor, it's really ravenous type of eating. For the sake of eating, terra mari qui omnia exquire. They would exquire, they would inquire or seek out all of the terra and mare, all of the land and sea. They would dormiri prius quam, prius quam means before, somni cupido esse. So, prior to a desire for sleep, they would sleep before there was a desire for sleep, before there was a need of it. So, non famem or sitem, so it's not famine or thirst, or so it wasn't hunger, it's probably the milder version of it. Nequi frigidus, nequi lassitudinem, operae means to wait, or it's one of the forms of waiting. So neither cold nor lassitude, or that's being weary. Said ea omnia luxuri anticapere. But these things, anticapere, they would take in advance, they anticipate, all these things, luxu, in luxury. And I might just read this note here from the lobe. Superabundance produced decadence, luxurious habits, merely for pleasure, and bathing when neither fatigued or chilled. There we go. Hake, these things, juventutem, these the young men again, ubi familiare opes defecerent, so when they were deficient in their familiares opes, these are in apposition. Familiars sometimes mean servants and stuff. Here it means their familiar or their customary resources. So the young man, when the usual habitual resources were lacking, ad facinora incendabant. They went into do ad facinora crimes. So this is the customs of these young men. They didn't seem to have too many morals, and they would go and do crimes when their resources ran out. Animus imbutus, it looks past passive, so the minds or the souls were imbued, malus artibus, with evil arts, evil skills, but probably is even the evil arts. Horde faculty, not easily, carabat, which takes the ablative, were they free from these lubines, from their lusts. Eo profusius omnibus modus. So they're more profusius, this looks comparative or something. So in all modus, in all ways, they were very profuse. Quasitu is the fourth, it means way of getting an income. and sumptuous is the way of spending money, and deditus erat. So the imbutus animus was deditus, given over to all types of profuse ways of getting money and spending it.